Hi, everyone. Before I start, I want to ask a quick question. Did you know that today, the average white family in America has about 8 times the wealth of the average black family? Bet you didn't know that. When we see statistics like that, we usually think it's just about an individual that made a wrong choice, right? But history shows us a different story. Today, I want to inform you about the historical roots of the American wealth gap. Specifically, I'm going to talk about the GI Bill after World War II, the practice of redlining and housing, and how these things created a generational cycle that we still see and experience today. First, let's look at the GI Bill. After World War II, the government gave veterans amazing benefits like low-cost mortgages and college tuition. This basically built the American middle class. However, these benefits were not distributed equally. According to Ibram X. Kendi in his book Stamped the Beginning, these policies were structured in a way that intentionally funneled resources away from the black communities. While white veterans were buying homes and going to college, and their kids were going to college as well, black veterans were often denied those same loans, same benefits, and were forced into low-paying jobs. This was the first major split in the wealth gap. Second, we have to talk about redlining. This is when the government literally drew red lines on maps around black neighborhoods to label them as hazardous for loans. As Joe Fagan explains in his book, The White Racial Frame, this wasn't just a private choice. It was a systematic exclusion from the housing market. Because black families couldn't get mortgages and they couldn't buy homes. In America, home equity is the number one way families build wealth. By shutting black families out of home ownership for decades, the government essentially shut them out of the American dream that we all know and have heard about. Finally, why does this matter? It matters because wealth is generational. We still see the impact today. If your grandparents couldn't buy a home, they couldn't pass the equity down to your parents, and your parents couldn't help you with the down payment or college tuition. According to a report by the Brookings Institution, this wealth gap is a structural issue done on purpose, not an individual one. It creates a cycle where black families have to work twice as hard just to get half as far. And as a black woman being raised in America, I have heard this time and time again. As a student parent myself, I see how important it is to break these cycles, break these chains, so my child and their children have a different starting line than myself or my ancestors did. In conclusion, the wealth gap didn't happen by accident. We've seen today how the GI Bill, redlining, and generational cycles all work together to create the inequality we see in 2026 today. Understanding this history is the only way we can start having real conversations about how to fix it. We have to acknowledge the invisible walls that were built in the past if we want to tear them down for the future. I hope that this speech was informative and enlightening for maybe some people who had no idea that this was a thing that was implemented. When we get in front of our past, that is when we can help our future. So thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. And I'll see you next time.